Welcome back to the Honest Art Podcast, everyone. I am Jody King, and I am so excited because I have a very special guest, and you may know her. I found her on social media, and you know how you just see somebody and you know they're so real and there's not a performative thing about them, and they just say fuck, and they just live their life from such a place of authenticity, and that is my guest, Stacy. Stacy, I'm going to butcher your last name.
Yeah, everybody does.
You say
Solodkin.
Stacy Solodkin.
That was perfect.
Okay, awesome. So welcome, Stacy. Thanks for joining us.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to talk to you because I've admired you for so long, and I feel like we're soul sisters.
Absolutely.
Art sisters to the core.
For sure. And we'll share a little bit more about this, but we were saying we really weren't quite so sure why we just connected. But then as we were just talking about how we feel about life and living, well, we'll talk more about that, but now it's a little bit more understandable. But for those of you who are unaware of Stacy and her work, Stacy is it's sculpture, clay. How would you describe your work right now, Stacy?
I would say that I'm an experimental abstract builder.
Ooh.
Yes, I like to build things, and it's come out of, I was a painter for many, many years, and my lines wanted to come off the canvas. And so I started building with clay, mostly porcelain, and I mix cotton fiber into my porcelain, and I build abstract expressions of my paintings, actually, with clay. And I am completely obsessed with clay.
Wow. Well, you can see your obsession. You can see it. And for those of you who don't follow Stacy, you need to, because you can record so much of your process, so much of your behind the scenes. I love watching your stories. You're very active. So it's really fun as an artist who loves artists, to see that process. But you're like legit trained. Didn't you get a scholarship to the Art Institute of Chicago? This is not something new for you. You have stuck your stake in the ground and claimed yourself as an artist from a young age, right?
Oh, probably as soon as I found a crayon box, I was drawing, and as I went into school, I was always sat at the table with the quote gifted artists, and they were entering our things into contests and stuff like that. And yes, from a very young age, right out of high school, I got scholarship to Art Institute of Chicago, and I did not go because there was a fear in my family about art not being able to sustain you as a living. So
I don't think anybody's ever heard that before. That's shocking.
No, it's so uncommon. So I was told to go into art therapy or graphic design. I was trying to fit my creativity into something that looked more normal as a way to make money. And then I sort of lost my way a bit, and I didn't come back to my art as a profession until later in life.
Mm. So you took the advice of well-meaning people and said, okay, I'll do this, and you went the quote safe route until you just couldn't. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you just couldn't deny it.
Yeah, I minored in art,
mm-hmm.
and I majored in psychology. And
mm-hmm.
then I tried to go into a graphic design class, which I was utterly horrible at because I'm not about coloring in the lines. I'm out there. I am just let's just see what happens. My whole mantra is let's just see what could happen next, right?
Yeah.
That's my whole thing. I create a problem for myself and I figure out how I can make it work, right? I know there are people who are artisans and they can replicate and replicate and replicate, and that is not what I do.
No.
I like to create issues. I don't think I like to create issues, but I do create issues. And something, it just comes out of me, and I want to figure out how to make this live in the world. Right.
Right.
But yeah, I went the safe route, and always having my art on the side. I fell into acting, so I did that for a while. I was on TV and I was in film, and I created a business for myself that was very lucrative. I represented artists, actors. So I was a talent agent for 25 years. And in that time, you know, there were some magical things that led me back to my art. Like I literally saw a sign. Like my last trip I did with my mother before she died, we went to Italy together. And when I told her on the trip, you know, I really want a space for my art. Like I don't want to be painting in my kitchen. And I came home and I was walking down the street to my job, and I literally saw a sign on the street, a little tiny sign that said art studio for rent.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, that's for me. And I went and I didn't know how I was going to pay for it, but I got this studio. And from that studio, I was in the art walk, the Venice Art Walk.
Yeah.
I was featured in the Venice Art Walk, and then I got management. And then I started getting commissions, and things sort of grew, but I didn't fully embrace it until, you know, I was making money, but I didn't fully embrace it until I became sick with cancer. And
okay, let's talk about that. But
okay.
Before we get into that, because that's such a big story and a big part of your story, I just want to back up, because one of the things you said, which I think is really, really meaningful, is number one, you were open enough to say, this is what I want.
Yes.
You know, and sometimes I feel like we don't get what we want because we don't know what we want. And we're just like, how come I'm not getting it? Well, what do you want? Well, I'm not sure. I don't know, maybe, right. But you were clear. This is what I want. And I feel like so often we number one, we're not clear on it. And number two, we don't trust it. You said, I didn't know how I was going to pay for it.
Yeah.
I just, has this been your experience? I find that when I will just I'll just act. If I'll just act, then like the universe rises to meet me, or not. But without that action, we don't know.
Always. You must take the first step, because then the next step is going to present itself. So you have to take the first step, right? And I live my life that way. I think it is a day by day. And I think that people often are scared because they don't know the entire path.
Right.
And really, truly, we only live day by day. We don't know tomorrow. Yes. So the only thing to do is to take the step.
Yes.
I have always found creative expression in whatever I did. It doesn't matter. I was an actor. I like to dance and sing, even though I do it really badly. And I believe creative expression is like the best gift we can give to ourselves.
Exactly.
Because
we are inherently created by a creator, by whatever name you call her or him.
Yeah.
And that's who we are. So to stifle that, it has consequences.
Yes. Yeah. Indeed.
So tell us now about this. So you were being creative, but tell us that journey. How did you find yourself sick with stage 3 cancer?
Well, I don't know how much you want me to go into this, but I was in a very high stress job, and both my parents passed away from cancer. I have always been healthy. I've eaten healthy, and also had a lot of creative expression in my life, which is beautiful. But I also had a lot of stress, and I don't know if you want to know the story of what happened.
I want to know the story. I feel like Maybe it's because I have friends right now that are struggling with health diagnoses, and you and I think we're around the same kind of age range, and a lot of the artists that follow us are of the same. And so I think it is important, as long as you feel comfortable talking about it.
I totally do.
Okay.
So basically, I looked exactly how I look now: vibrant, healthy, and I had just come back from burying my father, and we had just bought a new house. Everything was great. And then one Friday and I'm just going to tell you, you could edit this out. I was going to the bathroom and it was painful. I was going poop and it was painful.
Yeah.
And then after I pooped, everything was fine. Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it feels like there's like a blockage. Right.
Yeah.
And I started Googling. So basically what happened was I decided, well, I'm just going to stay in bed for the weekend. So I, hung out. And the only time I didn't feel well is when I went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I wrote to my doctor and I was like, I think there's something there. And then on Monday, I called my doctor while I was going to the bathroom, and she heard how painful it was. And she's like, you know what? Just go to the ER. And I was working. So I grabbed my computer and I went to the ER, and I walk in like this. Hi, something's wrong. And they're looking at me like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And they put me in a room, and they said, after they examined me, they were like, you are constipated. And they tried to send me home with constipation medicine. And I said, I'm 43 years old. This is not constipation. I know what it's like to be constipated. Yes. Another doctor comes in and he's like, I think it might be a pulled muscle. And I'm like, nope, not a pulled muscle. Been working out my whole life. No. And I made them give me a test. So then they did an ultrasound, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, we want to do another test, right? So I was there for 12 hours. And I'm working on my computer, blah, blah, blah. They don't even have me in the room anymore. I'm in a hospital gown in the waiting room because they don't think anything's wrong with me.
Right.
Cut to 12 hours later, they wheel me back into the room, and I'm on the phone with my assistant, and I'm like, this is not good. They're wheeling me back into a room. And it was like a bad Grey's Anatomy episode. The woman who originally said I was constipated closes the door and pulls a chair to my side and says, I'm so sorry. You have cancer and it's everywhere. Yeah. And they're not supposed to say that.
Right.
And I'm just going to tell you, they tried to send me home because the ovarian cancer doctors wouldn't claim it was ovarian. The stomach cancer doctors wouldn't claim that it was stomach, and they wanted to send me home. And the original woman fought for me. And she got some doctor who wasn't even a cancer doctor to admit me. And I was there for 3 days. And if she hadn't done that, and if I hadn't fought for myself, I would not be here right now.
Right.
Because it was on every single organ.
Wow.
When they opened me up, they had to close me because they told my husband, who wasn't my husband at the time, by the way. He asked me to marry him after my first chemo.
Oh,
he's a good guy.
Good guy.
They closed me back and said if we operated, she would die. So that's my journey. And what happened through my cancer journey is I realized that I needed to embrace what I felt in my heart was my life's purpose. And my life's purpose was not about work. It was about creating joy and peace and ease in my life, however I had to do that. And the way I did that was I would say to myself, if this was my last day, is this what I want to be doing? Am I going to regret not doing this? And if the answer was yes, I would regret this on my last day that I didn't jump in that cold fucking ocean.
Yeah.
Then I got my ass in the ocean. Yeah. Right? Whatever that question was, I weighed it. I balanced it against what I would think of that on my last day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is something that we could all learn from. Would this matter on my last day? Because especially when we think about our own needs and desires as creatives. So often we're like, oh, well, we have to empty the dishwasher and we have to run to the grocery store and we have to do all of those things that are, that life is demanding of us. And so if maybe possibly in the off chance we get a little moment, we might steal it, or then maybe we won't. It's just, we think it's so optional, that our needs, that our joy, that our peace, that can wait. But
yeah. I think that it's also like we can't beat ourselves up because I still have to remind myself.
Yeah.
I'm 7 years clean now out of my cancer. And I find myself having to remind myself, oh, Stace, remember, you don't have to run around. Remember, it's not about that. Life is a constant reminding ourselves of why we're here, and it shifts and changes all the time.
Yes, yes. Stacy, I first of all, I'm really glad you said you're 7 years clean, because I know everyone. I knew just because I follow you that you're very healthy now. But I'm glad you said that, because people are wondering what happened.
Right.
What's going on? But so often when I talk about art being validating the human experience. And I hope this is not offensive to you at all, but I always say that if we are not connected to our art, we have to connect to it. Maybe we don't know what it means in the moment, and maybe we won't know for weeks or maybe months, but if we don't feel connected, no one else will feel connected to it.
Right.
And as such a fan of your work, when I look at you visually and I see your hair, and I see your sculpture, I'm like, there she is.
Right?
In various forms. There's Stacy.
Yes. I feel what I do when I walk into my studio is I give it over. Mm-hmm. Right? So I really feel like I am downloading.
Yes.
Whatever needs to come through me is going to come through me. And I start with an idea, maybe.
Yeah.
And then I allow.
Yes.
So my whole process is about allowing.
Yes.
And then as problems arise, I sort of figure out how to fix it. But I really feel like I'm in communion with whatever message is trying to come through me. And I am in love with my pieces, in desperate, intense love. Like I love them like they're my babies, right? I want to curl up with them. I want to kiss them. I talk to them. I'm insane. I am fucking crazy. And for a long time, it made it hard to let them go. Now they're selling, and I've realized that just like a mom, I have to allow my kids to go to college, right?
Yes.
I have to let them out of the house
Yes.
to fly and have their own life.
Yes.
But I truly believe that there's something in the artistic process that if you just allow yourself to let your mind kind of go to the side just a slight bit,
Yes.
that you can surprise yourself.
Yes.
All the time.
Constantly.
Constantly.
Absolutely.
Like I did that. It's interesting because I'm doing something right now. A friend of mine was coiling, so I started coiling. And it's a much different process than what I normally do. And it's much more like I'm much more involved in the process. And I don't think it's necessarily my flow, but it's interesting to try and do something that's outside of my comfort zone but what it did was it helped me define what I normally do, which is much more of a flow than, I'm going to now technically do this and this and this. And I admire people who can do that. I'm just a messy ass artist, and I just like to throw shit around and see what happens.
That's exactly my process. If somebody said, what's your process? There it is. That's that. I try to get out of the damn way and I try to enjoy myself. Sometimes that feels like dancing. Sometimes that feels like crying. Sometimes that feel whatever it might be, just to allow for that. But what everyone who's listening to this, what Stacy didn't say was she doesn't try to make what she thinks people want or is marketable, or, you've got all that business sense. You connect to it first.
Yes. I will say that those voices do come into my head, especially now that commerce has really entered the picture, and I'm in a few galleries.
Yeah.
And I have to constantly bring myself back from, is the gallery going to want this? Yes. Are people going to pay this kind of money for this piece? And I have to remember that I got my space. I started creating again because I just wanted to see what happened, and I wanted to have free expression. And my work is almost like my diary. Yes. And I want to go back to what you said about Instagram, because I do share a lot. And even my husband in the beginning didn't understand what I was doing. I've always had a diary.
Yeah.
And now Instagram is my visual diary. I can go back through, I can see the growth, and also the connection that I find with other artists is a huge part of my heart now.
Yes.
I love watching people who are further down the path than me because they light the way for me. And I feel like my job is now to take that light and go, oh, here to the people who are behind me, right?
Yes.
And I do a lot of dancing, and I put those up there even though they're very embarrassing, because in my mind, I hope that there is at least one person that starts dancing with me.
Yeah.
Like this communion with someone who's in another country or in another state is a really beautiful thing.
It's everything. Having a community of artists, first of all, it helps us. It's a very solo practice, right? What we do is it can feel lonely at times, and we can second guess everything. I was talking to some friends. I said, sometimes it's like, because number one, I'm single. I live alone. I paint alone. I create alone. Right now, luckily, I have a team, and that's what keeps me from not losing my mind. But sometimes, I'll go, well, what do you think, Jody? How? And they're like, well, I'm just not sure. What if we did? And I just sometimes feel like I'm just going like a tennis match, going back and forth. Sorry, I totally got off track. But
No, I love it, because it also brings up something else. Like, I remember I used to watch you, and, I used to think, oh, wow, I wish I could do what she does, right? I wish that I could be successful like her. And it wasn't until I sort of just made it purely about the work.
Yes.
And purely about just full expression, that things actually started really percolating for me.
That's so big. I hope everyone hears this, because there's so many artists that are afraid to put themselves out there because they don't know what to say, and they don't want to look silly, and they don't, all of the things. And if I always say, it's not about you. It's just, if you can take yourself out of it, it's not about you. It's about the work, and it's about what you can give to others. Then they're like, oh.
Yeah, absolutely. And even more than that, I do believe, I used to read Big Magic all the time. It was my Bible. And I do believe, I'm a little bit esoteric. I'm not woo-woo, but I'm esoteric. And I do feel like there are these ideas floating around, and they're trying to come through whoever is willing to grab onto them and say, yes, let's try this, right? And I just feel like instead of focusing on, am I going to be successful? It's like, no, come back to the day, come back to, is this my last day? What do I want to do? How am I going to feel groovy at the end of the day? Like, oh my God, I tried this thing, you know?
Okay, guys, real quick, while I've got to tell you about something really, really exciting, and that is the Honest Art Society. The Honest Art Society is my membership group where I'm able to finally offer artists all of the things that you've been asking for. So you get monthly training You get coaching calls, you get monthly art critiques, there are guest speakers, there is studio hour where we'll paint together, and also you get exclusive discounts and offers, and you get to hear about things that happen first. All for only $47 a month. So I hope you will join me in this group with amazing artists as well. So go to the link in the show notes to find out more about the Honest Art Society. If you, let's say that there's an aspiring artist, and I almost said young, but like I said, most of the people that I sell my art to, who follow me, who listen to the podcast, all of that, we're talking 45 to 80 is the age, and so many of them are just starting. So, do you have any thoughts for aspiring artists on, if they are wanting to try a new medium? Because you went from painting to what are your thoughts? What are some ideas that you could share with them that would be encouraging?
So first of all, I'm about to turn 55, and I didn't truly 100% dive into my art as like my whole thing until I think 2021.
Okay.
And that was during COVID.
Yeah.
And I was a painter, a drawer, painter, always. And I decided to take a paper clay workshop. And when I started working with clay, it just felt like a big yes. It was like, yes. And then all these ideas started happening. And I go back to those first days and I look at what I made and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm so embarrassed by it now. But at the time,
we all are embarrassed by those first things, but we've got to get them out of the way, right?
Yeah. And I keep them on my feed because I was like, look what I made. And I was so happy. And literally within 2 years, I was in a gallery all of a sudden. Like, I never thought that was possible. I was like, oh no, because with my paintings, it was very hard and difficult for me. I still made them and I still sold, and I've had my stuff in TV shows. But it wasn't until clay that I was like, this is my thing. And I think what I'm trying to say is that I would encourage anyone at any age to just start with any medium, because you're going to find yourself going from, if you really let yourself be open, your mediums will change. You'll say, let me try this, and you will fall into something that just feels like a warm yes.
Yes.
And then things will just start happening. Just like we said in the beginning, you will take a step and then the next step will come. And I don't, look, I used to represent actors, and I feel like everybody thinks there's this pinnacle to get to. There is never an end. There's no end to the learning. There's no, like, you get a gallery, but then there's a whole other set of issues that come up when you get a gallery.
Yeah.
Are they going to keep me? Are they going to drop me? My collection sold out. Is this one going to sell out? Like, this one's not selling. Like, there's always problems and things to navigate. I would always just encourage people to just start. And when I receive messages in my DMs saying, I'm going to learn, I'm going to take my first class. And I'm like, yes, because it's not about your end product. Mm-mm. The art is in the doing of it. And if you can just immerse yourself in the art of the doing, it doesn't matter what what's left of it is just the artifact. Yeah. It's just the thing that comes. And that's what's his face? I read his book too. It's just the artifact of the actual process. And if you can just fall in love with the process and of fully engaging yourself in the process, it doesn't matter how old you are. I keep thinking, like, God, when I'm 80, I hope I'm in a museum. Like, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, oh, won't that be exciting?
Yes.
It's not like, how am I going to get there? And it's so hard. And it's not like grasping and holding on. And can you give me the answer? It's like, oh God, won't that be exciting?
Yes.
That's so cool. Okay, let's go make something.
Yes. And it sounds so cliche that it is about the process, but it truly is. It's about who we become with the art. And I often think, is it the art that made me the artist?
Oh.
Or am I the artist that made the art?
Oh.
And I think it's the art that made me the artist.
I love that.
And I just feel so profoundly grateful to have the process.
Oh my God, I have chills all over my arms. I completely agree. I look around when I come into my studio and I just go, wow, and hi everyone. Like, thank you for coming into my life. I just am so grateful. Every time I make something, I feel like a kid.
Yes.
You know,
absolutely.
It feels like a privilege.
It does feel like a privilege. It almost feels like I'm cheating because it's so good. I want to ask you a little bit about balancing the creativity, with the business side. Can you share how you balance your days? And the reason I'm asking is I find this fascinating. I found I don't even know if it's real. Honestly, I found it on the internet, so you never know. But it listed all of these different historically successful artists, from Beethoven, Mozart, all painters like Basquiat, like all different mediums, and it said what their day looked like.
Yeah,
and everyone's day was different. Everyone, but as artists, we are balancing, a lot. So can you give us an idea of just what a typical day and how you balance things?
So I'm not a good balancer at all.
I think balance is some bullshit anyway. But
it is some bullshit. And I will say that I have chosen not to be a hustler. And I do find myself at times jealous of my artist friends who are really good at it. But again, I was a talent agent and I spent my life hustling.
Right.
And I am very determined not to let that infiltrate my artistic life.
Right.
So my growth, even though for some people might look big, I could have jumped in even further. Mm-hmm. But what it looks like today now is me sending you my bio 15 minutes before we're supposed to go on, right? My website is not kept up to date. I don't necessarily spend 2 hours of my time every day writing to people. What it looks like is me seeing a designer on Instagram who inspires me and then writing to them and saying, I love your eye and I would love to work with you sometime. I have a catalog and I can send it to you if my work inspires you in the same way.
Yeah.
And that's how I make my connections.
Yes.
All my connections have been through Instagram.
Yeah.
I am very grateful for the internet, even though I feel like a lot of it is evil.
Yeah.
And sometimes I hate it, but all of the good things that have happened for my art have been because I've made these connections on Instagram. So I will spend time looking through my friends, finding new galleries. Maybe if something inspires me, I'll write to someone. But I would say that probably happens maybe once or twice a week, maybe.
Right.
And then I did take the time to make a nice catalog of my work, and I submit that to people.
Yes.
But otherwise, I would say that I'm probably not the person to advise someone about the business side of the art, only because I'm not, I have a girlfriend and she's just like constantly selling and doing this and that. And I just go, no, Stace, pull it back.
Yes.
Every time I feel the impetus, like I'm not doing enough, I'm like, back to the work. They will find me working. They will find me in my art. And I profoundly believe that. I really, really do.
Yes, I agree. And you cannot, when I mentor people, I have a community, a society for artists called the Honest Art Society. And then I also have Studio Elite. And when I'm talking to them, I always say it's about the work. It all comes back to the work. So we can talk about Instagram, we can talk about email lists, we can talk about licensing, we can talk about galleries, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. But it all comes back to the work.
Yeah, and I just want to say something because I'm calling bullshit on myself. Because it is about the work and I do pull myself back. But just like you said earlier, I am putting myself out there.
Yeah.
You can absolutely start on your kitchen table in your small corner, but you have to be putting the work out there for people to find you. Otherwise, you won't be found. Yes. So I feel like my balance is putting myself out on Instagram, right? And at the same time, allowing the process to just be what it is. Yes. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just put my camera on. And I'll film myself. And I might use it, I might not. But I put it on and I put it somewhere out of my sight. And then I just start working and I turn on the music and I'm dancing, right? But it's a way for me to have something in the end to show.
Right.
And I do think it's important that you make sure that you have something to show. You have to be able to have something tangible that you can then display for people to find you. So that is the balance. I do that.
Well, and I think that's, if people hear nothing else from a business side of it, they're not going to find you. We paint and hope. So much of this, or we create and hope, right? That is not going to work. You've got to figure out ways to put yourself out there. Otherwise, nobody is going to find you. It's like if you had a cookie company and you're like, you could make the best fucking cookies you've ever tasted in your life, but if you don't put them out there, nobody's buying them, right?
Yep.
So just doing that would just putting yourself out there. Also, Stacy, I was talking to an art consultant, and actually, come on, Jody, get these words out. I know you can do it. The podcast was released the week of May 5th, and we're talking to today for those. Well, you can't. Why did I do that? It's because this podcast isn't coming out till June. But anyway, back in May. I was talking to an art consultant about how artists can start working with art consultants. And she said the same thing, Stacy, that you're saying. She's like, you have to put yourself out there. And it could be an art fair. It could be social media. But she was saying she finds most of her artists through social media.
Yeah, so. It's so true. It's so true. And I just really feel like, the way I get over, I think a lot of people are afraid of putting themselves out there. And
absolutely.
For me, it's not about, it's about sharing. Yes. If you can think of it more in the way of I am sharing myself with my art sisters, I am making a visual diary for myself. Yes. This is not about marketing. It's not being perfect. If you go to my Instagram, you see a lot of times I look like I need a shower. I'm singing off tune. I'm making something and showing how awful the middle of the process is when I hate something, when I can't figure something out, when I break something.
Yeah, I call that the fugglies. You're just in the fugglies. You'll get out of it.
I'm in the fugglies. And I think that if you can think about it like you're just sharing the process and creating a visual diary for yourself to look back on. I think that will help, but you've gotta, we need your art.
Yes.
We need it. We need to see it.
We need it now more than ever.
Yes.
And I think we need to create it now more than ever.
Yes, I agree. At
least in my lifetime, this is the stress of the first with COVID, and now in the U.S. with everything that's going on. I need it more than ever, and I think we all do.
Yeah, because I believe when you're creating, you're also creating light, right? There's so much darkness in the world, and artists bring light to the world. They bring beauty and light. And I believe, everybody has their purpose in life, and I believe that one of my purposes is to bring light into the world. And when I think about what's happening, I can go down this spiral of darkness.
Yes.
And what I know is if I'm there, I'm contributing to that energy in the world. And what I really want to do is uplift.
Right.
And I believe that shift can create change in the world. It can ripple out.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the pebble, dropped in the water, and it just completely ripples out. Well, Stacy, I am so glad that you show up this way, and that is your purpose and your intention, because you're nailing it, sister. You are nailing it, and your energy, your light, it's all so contagious. It's all so contagious. And your work is the most delicious sculpture. I think of it more of like vases, but I don't even know if that's what it's just stunning. And I hope everyone who hears this will head to your what is your handle? What is your Instagram handle?
It's my name, Stacy Solodkin.
Okay, Stacy Solodkin. And at website, anywhere else people can find you?
Yeah, I have a website, stacysolodkin.com, but most of my new work and my process is on my Instagram, actually.
Yeah, same for me. And I want to ask you one more question because I think this is relatable for people. One of the things that I hear, kind of a pushback that I hear from artists is, well, I'm wanting to sell art, and the only people that follow me are artists.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? I know what I say, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm just going to tell you a story. I met an artist from a different state on Instagram, and she befriended me. She's an older artist, and she's been successful. And although she goes through a lot of the ups and downs still, in her 70s.
Yeah.
And she was talking to her gallery in New York that she's not even with anymore. And she's like, you should look at this artist, Stacy. And then she wrote to me, and she's like, you should write to her because she's interested in you. And that's how she opened the door to me thinking I could have a gallery notice me in this clay journey that I'd only been on for a year. And when she said yes to me, it opened a door in my mind that just was like, oh, I can do this. And from one gallery, I got another gallery, and then I got another gallery, because as soon as you realize that there isn't a glass in your glass ceiling, it's air. And it's only our mind that keeps us from going higher up. And that all happened because of an artist friend who had never met me in person. Oh, no, actually, she did. She came into LA. She came to my studio, and I thought she hated my work.
No way.
Yes, I was convinced it was not a good studio visit. She hated my work. She didn't talk about my work. And literally within a couple of days, she said, I talked to my gallery about you, and I think you should talk to them. And that would not have happened if I didn't have artists following me.
Yes.
We all help each other. I can't tell you how many people I have now referred to my galleries because this woman helped me, and I now want to pay it forward.
Yeah.
It's important to have artist friends.
Yes. I agree.
I hear about things from my artists. I see where my friends are going, and I'm like, oh, that's a new gallery to look at.
Yep.
And then when you click on that gallery, you see 5 other galleries.
Yep. Yep. That's
You
why
know?
community is so important for us as artists. And then the other thing, if you're listening to this, remember that so many galleries, so many designers, so many art consultants, they're looking for artists on Instagram.
Yes.
So don't, do what you have to do to get over the hump, to do it imperfectly. But just as Stacy said, just start.
I also just want to say something else, because I feel like we can ask ourselves limiting questions. And if you find yourself asking yourself a question like, well, but the only people that follow me are artists, that's a downward facing question. And I feel like it's a really important thing to do, which is asking yourself upward facing questions. What's going to uplift you? So what's a better question to ask? Is how can I be inspired by these artists? Oh my God, let me look, what's going to inspire me today, right? And you go onto your Instagram and you see your artist friends. And if that's your intention, you will find things that inspire you from your friends that will then lead you to, oh, maybe I could do that too. Because it isn't just, oh, look what they're doing. It's, if they can do it, so can I. They're opening the door for me. They're lighting my path. I'm going to walk down that path too. I'm going to take the next step. I'm going to bask in their glow, and it's going to cover me, and I'm going to be sparkly, and they are lighting me up, sister. Like, they are lighting me up.
Absolutely. And you are lighting all of us up, Stacy. I have loved talking to you. I knew it was going to be affirming and life-giving and fun to talk to you, and I was right. I was right. Yay! You're amazing. So thanks for the work you do in the world. Thanks for sharing your journey and your story. It reminds me of the saying, your survival guide will be your shit show will be someone else's survival guide.
Oh.
And I feel like that's what you're doing just with being in this world and sharing your art and just your humanity. So thank you.
Well, thank you, because I feel the same way about you. Like you were one of my light givers. Oh. You really did. I feel like you opened the path to this creative journey for a lot of people. You certainly did for me. And I just think you're the bee's knees. I really do. I do.
Stacey.
Yeah. You have a freedom about you that I aspire to every day.
Oh. Thank you so much. That means everything to me. I appreciate it. So everyone, go follow Stacy Solodkin on Instagram and be inspired. And her work is just going to blow you away. All right. Thanks so much, Stacy.
Thank you.
Big announcement around here. I am announcing my final 2 workshops of 2025. One is in Santa Fe, New Mexico in July, and the other is here in Austin, Texas in October. And I know taking a workshop can feel vulnerable, it can feel scary, but it is truly the fastest way to level up your art. Plus, we just have a ball. So whether you are a beginner or you are a seasoned artist, this workshop will transform your art and leave you feeling like such a badass, knowing that you've got the skills to not only make honest art, but fine art. So one word of caution, if you're interested in joining me, and I hope you will, know that every workshop I have offered in the last 5 years has sold out within days. So I would love to paint with you, and if you'd like to learn more, head to the link in the show notes.